Hey everyone, today we're going to show you how to flush the cooling system on your dirt bike. This is something that often gets overlooked, but you should do it every year or two because one, coolant loses its effectiveness over time, and two, you can get some corrosion buildup inside the cooling system after a couple of years. So you want to get that flushed out, keep everything working correctly, and keep the engine running nice and cool. Now, we are going to be using some engine flush for that, or some coolant flush. This stuff is from Engine Ice. It's going to work great to get all that grime and corrosion out of there. You also want to use this if you're changing coolant types. So if you're going from an ethylene glycol based coolant, so the green stuff, to a propylene glycol coolant like Engine Ice, you need to get all the old stuff out before you put the new stuff in, because those two types of coolants, they don't really mesh together very well, and you're not going to get as good of heat transfer or corrosion protection, or even the boiling point and the freeze point can be affected. So again, get all the old stuff out, get the fresh stuff in, and keep the system clean. Now this bike is about 18 years old, and it's been a long time since the coolant has been changed out. So it's going to be interesting to see what we find. This is something that's really simple to do. Let's go ahead and get started. To get this done, I've got my 8mm T handle. Some bikes are going to use a 10. Now if you have a cooling reservoir, you're going to need some pliers to remove a hose. We also have a crush washer for our drain bolt. We want to make sure that seals when we go back together. I've got safety glasses, rubber gloves, rags. I also have some tin foil to make a funnel down by that drain bolt. And this is just going to make it so all the coolant drains down straight into the drain pan, and it's going to help prevent from making a mess. Now as far as fluids go, we've got that Engine Ice Coolant System Flush and Clean. So this is going to get all that gunk and grime out of our cooling system. We're going to follow that up with another flush with some distilled water. Now the reason we're not using tap water is that can have minerals in there that can corrode the system. So make sure you have distilled water. And then when we go to fill everything up, we've got some Engine Ice is what we're going to be using. We've got several options for coolant on our website. You're going to need less than 2 quarts on most bikes, so 1 bottle of this is going to get the job done. Now, with that being said, most of the coolants on our website, they're pre-diluted. You're not going to have to do anything to them or add any distilled water, and they are designed specifically for power sports vehicles, so they're safe to use on aluminum and magnesium. So with all that being said, if you need any coolant or anything else for your bike, you can find that stuff on our website. Just click the link in the description below. First things first, you want to make sure your engine is at room temperature. And then to locate your drain plug, you're going to look at your water pump cover. You're going to see one bolt that has a crush washer on it. So we've got this copper washer, that's our drain bolt. And while you're down here, it's not a bad idea to be looking at your radiator hoses, making sure they're in good condition. And if you notice any water leaking from the bottom of the pump, there's a little weep hole down there that indicates a bad water pump seal. So take a look at those things while you're in that area. To get the old coolant drained out, I'm using this little tin foil funnel to help guide the coolant. Then I'm going to remove that coolant drain bolt. With that bolt removed, I've got the drain pan underneath the funnel. I'm going to remove the radiator cap. That's going to allow all of the coolant to come out. And that does not seem like enough coolant, so it's probably good we haven't ran this bike yet. The next step is to reinstall your drain bolt, and I'm reusing that old crush washer for this step. With that tightened down, we can go ahead and fill the cooling system with our coolant system flush and reinstall the radiator cap. We're going to start the bike and bring it up to operating temperature. So we're going to run this for just about 10 minutes and let it completely cool down. Once it's cool, we can remove that drain plug. Make sure you have the drain pan underneath, and again, remove the radiator cap. And you can see this is a lot more fluid than the first time, and it's coming out pretty clean. So with this coming out as clean as it is, we can go ahead and reinstall the drain bolt. We're going to fill this back up with distilled water and get any remaining coolant cleaned out of there. We're gonna reinstall the radiator cap, run the bike one more time, and we're just gonna run it for about a minute this time. Then make sure everything's cool. You can do the same thing, remove the drain plug and that radiator cap and drain all that water out. If the water looks dirty, you can repeat the flush steps until you get clear water coming out of here. And we're also gonna tip the bike over to get all the remaining water out, or as much as we can. Then I'm gonna replace the crush washer on that drain bolt. We'll install it and torque it to spec. Now, if you have a bike that has a coolant reservoir, you're gonna wanna drain all of the old coolant out of it. Rinse the bottle with some distilled water. Then you can top the reservoir off to the cold fill mark. Now we can pour our fresh coolant in. And as I do this, I'm gonna pour it kind of slow, and that's gonna allow the air to come up at the same time. Some bikes, they're gonna have a little bleeder bolt. So if yours has one, make sure you crack that open and leave it open until you have coolant running out. Now to help bleed some of the air out, I'm gonna squeeze one of the radiator hoses a few times. It's gonna help any air bubbles come to the top. Some bikes are gonna have a bleeder on top of the radiator. If yours doesn't, you can tip the bike slightly to the side to help remove any air. And then once you have the coolant topped off, you can install the radiator cap, start the bike and bring it up to operating temperature. And then after you've ran it, let the bike cool off to room temperature one more time, and then double check your coolant level and make sure it's topped off. And that's all it takes to flush the cooling system on your dirt bike. We've got all of that old junk cleaned out. We've got fresh coolant in there, and we know everything is going to be working like it should. Now, if you need any coolant or anything else for your bike, you can find that stuff on our website. Just click the link in the description below. We offer free shipping on orders over $75, so take advantage of that. Now, if you have any questions about the process, leave those down in the comments. And if you want to see more helpful content like this, subscribe to our channel. I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ATV MC. Thanks for watching.